can move on to the session.
Sure, sure. Yeah.
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
So shall I stop sharing the screen then?
Yes, ma'am. Is okay. Wait a minute, ma'am. Wait a minute. Let me check it out whether it is available on YouTube also.
Okay. Is Google Meet able to handle 200 people?
No, ma'am. Only 100 people.
Yeah. So what is the?
The rest of the person will be availing this YouTube live stream and YouTube live stream. That's why.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Just a minute. A minute. Okay. ഒന്ന് ചെക്ക് ചെയ്തോട്ടെ.
ലജി സാറേ എപ്പോഴും മറ്റേ സ്ക്രീൻ തന്നെയാണ് കാണുന്നത്, സ്ലൈഡ്സ് ഡിലേ ഉണ്ടാവും. ഓക്കെ ഓക്കെ. ഓക്കെ ഓഡിയോ വരുന്നുണ്ട്, ഓഡിയോ കിട്ടുന്നുണ്ട്.
about principal, sir? Will he be giving it?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sunday morning. I'm here. Okay, I'm principal. I'm here. Sandhya ma'am. Hello.
Hello, sir.
Can you hear me?
I'm Sandhya
Can you hear me?
Kumar. Yes.
Okay,
You are
I am
audible.
here.
You are very
Okay.
clear.
Okay, I'm here.
Okay. Okay, Shahana, start. Shahana, hello. Okay,
No, we are already decided to start at 10 properly.
No, sir. Introductory session 9:50 can start and plan.
Okay, then I can upload. Okay.
Good morning, one and all. Tesla, the Association of Electrical Department, is actually a platform to the students to mold them as a perfect engineer. For the next academic year 2020-21, we have a new committee members, and this webinar is the first activity of our new academic year. Now I am inviting our HOD, the backbone of our department, Professor Bushra Bian, for the welcome speech.
So, good morning, all of you. Actually, the Tesla, the Association of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, MESITEM, is so honored to hold a webinar on a new programming paradigm of machine learning, which is of vital importance. And it's a great moment of pleasure and honor for me to extend a hearty welcome to all of you today to this webinar. Moving on to my duty. First and foremost, I would like to welcome Dr. Jay Nasser, the principal, who is a real motivator and supporter for every program organized in MESITEM. Welcome you, sir. I would like to welcome Professor Sandhya Harikumar, Assistant Professor, Amrita School of Engineering, Amrita campus, to this webinar. She's an expertise in, and on behalf of MESITEM and Tesla and the entire team, I wholeheartedly welcome you, ma'am, to this webinar. I welcome all the teachers, participants to this webinar. Stay tuned ahead for a wonderful session, and a warm welcome once again to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Now I would like to invite Dr. Jay Nasser, our principal, who supports us and encourages for all the activities organized in our department. So please share your valuable thoughts with us.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Here heavy rain.
Yes, sir, it's audible.
Here heavy rain actually. Okay. Good morning to one and all. I am extremely delighted to participate in the webinar organized by Tesla on machine learning, which is one of the emerging fields in the area of engineering and technology. I am greatly appreciated Tesla, the Association of Electrical and Electronics Engineers, for organizing this webinar. We are very happy to have Professor Sandhya Harikumar from Amrita School of Engineering with us as the speaker of the day. I wish the very best to Professor Sandhya.
Thank you.
I would like to congratulate Professor Bushra, Professor Nisha, and Mr. Riyaz for taking interest for arranging this webinar. I hope a wonderful section ahead. Thank you all. Thank you once again.
Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Now, let me introduce our chief guest, Professor Sandhya Harikumar, who pursued her MTech in Computer Science and Engineering from IIT Delhi. Currently, she is on the verge of completion of the PhD at Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham. Her research interests include machine learning, big data analytics, and DBMS. She has published more than 20 research papers in various conferences and journals. A warm welcome to you, ma'am, and I'm handovering this session to you.
Thank you very much. At the outset, I would like to thank college authorities and faculty coordinators, especially Professor Bushra, for inviting me to this webinar on machine learning. Yes, I have been working in this field since a decade now, and my research is also on this. So I'm very glad to share my thoughts, but given only 1 hour or 1.5 hours, I will be able to only give you a just plenary talk on this aspect of machine learning. So let me share my screen and please let me know if you are able to see it.
Okay, ma'am.
Is it visible?
Yes,
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, so let us start, isn't it?
Okay, ma'am. Okay.
Okay. So as I told you, the outline of today's webinar will be what is machine learning, why we require machine learning, the various types of machine learning, the prevalent applications, certain issues and components of machine learning. So actually machine learning grew out of a very broad field of study known as artificial intelligence. Historically, artificial intelligence was primarily meant to acquire and apply knowledge, to mimic human beings, how to think, plan, reasoning, etc. But with the advent of huge volume of data, the varieties of data getting generated in almost all sectors, all domains, it has become mandatory to develop some self-customizing programs so that we can acquire some knowledge in a different manner. And so we have machine learning. Deep learning is a variant of machine learning with different architecture, but here we will be dealing with machine learning aspects only. So I have been told that most of the participants are non-CS people. So I thought of taking a real life example of power generation. You may be knowing that in conventional power grid, the generation of power from the sources to various regions, they are a priori having a distribution, that these are regions of low distribution, high distribution and all, and they are generating accordingly and transmitting the power. And you may be knowing that it is only unidirectional. Okay. So can we make it more smart? That is the idea, because there is a problem here, like in terms of operational cost or management cost of the utilities, the energy transmission is not very efficient. So can we just try to tackle these issues with the advancement of technology? So there comes a very pivotal role of machine learning. So this scenario is of smart grid. Most of you might have heard of this, that various sources are there, and these are the power generation sources. So, and here they are utilizing it. But what is the advantage of smart grid is, instead of a single unidirectional, we have a bidirectional data. That means the data or power consumption data details from these homes or factories or even vehicles, it is transmitted or communicated to this type of sources. And can we come up with a generalization of this type of smart grid so that we can have efficient distribution, efficient transmission, efficient generation of power in order to curtail the unnecessary electricity usage or curtail the rates. Okay, so machine learning is about modeling such a system and come up with a generalization. Always you should remember. So this is an example of smart meter. It is, I'm going into more deeper aspect of smart grid, wherein smart meter is deployed. These are devices which are deployed in at certain consumers or residential places. And what is the advantage of this? It will read the consumption, electricity usage for each customer, say per day, and in an interval of 30 minutes. So thereby you can say 48 measurements may be taken. This is just an example which I am giving, but usually it may be 15 minutes data also. So this type of data is passed to the sources. And the sources are not just one source. As you can see, there are many sources. So there can be integration of these sources, and this type of readings which are passed to these sources, it will help the energy sources or the producers to understand and forecast what is the requirement of each of the consumers, and accordingly they can give the bandwidth. Okay, it can also help in personalized energy saving so that the consumers will know, yes, this time I'm using more, let me curtail it. Okay, it can also segment the consumers and accordingly give the power to the different segments. So this is one motivational example. Now I am going more deeper. let us consider that for each consumer, so I have say C1 consumer, C2 consumer, C3 consumer, C4 consumer, and I notice the smart meter readings. And the x-axis is actually giving me half-hour reading. That means each half hour I am looking into what is the electricity usage or consumption per kilowatt hour. Okay, so when I look into this, I find this type of patterns. Now, this is actually stored in terms of, so I will be just having the consumer name, the smart meter number, or the model ID or something like that. What can machine learning do? Machine learning will try to model this pattern and model this pattern and understand this and come up with some sort of generalization. And once that comes with generalization, now tomorrow a new customer is coming, and what it does is it will realize, oh yeah, fine, so this is using this customer, the usage of the consumer for electricity is this way. Can you forecast what will be here? Now, what is the advantage of this? The power generation or generator, the sources from which it will understand, see, I have given a priori more bandwidth to this, but they are using it less. Let me reduce it here. And suppose, yes, someone is speaking?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So suppose now another customer is coming and they understand that the pattern or the usage of electricity is something like this. So when they come, they are able to forecast it, and if what will be their usage, say during the evening, they will be able to forecast it because they have understood the patterns of C1, and this new customer or consumer who has come is somewhat resembling this C1. So we are just trying to reduce the generalization error. Now, you may always say that this is a new customer, then how do you know that it is going to use this much? It is not going to use. You are just predicting it. That is true. But at least you know that, okay, generally, if you look into the usage may be somewhat here. And if you look into the error, it may be minimal. Okay, so this is what. So what is the model generation means? It's a complex structure, mathematical structure. And what are we going to do with this? We will say what may be the consumption for consumer C5 or for consumer SN. Can you predict it? So the advantage are twofold. From the power generation source, it will understand what should be the bandwidth. From the consumer point of view, it will understand, okay, this is my current way of using. If I want to reduce it or if I want to improve it, I can understand. With this, I come to the typical definition of machine learning, which was initially given by Arthur Samuel during the late 50s. He said that machine learning is actually a field of study that gives the computers the ability to learn without being explicitly programmed, because we do not have any hard and fast rule to do something. Okay, so without understanding that what is the requirement, how do you make computers to learn something? And then, since this was a vague definition, Tom Mitchell came up with a very correct, a succinct definition. He said that we can always tell a computer program is learning from experience in order to do a task. And when you say that it is doing a task with experience, given experience, is it improving its task? And that improvement is measured in terms of some measure that is P. Okay, so you will understand this in subsequent slides. So what we are saying is machine learning, I'm giving you more precise definition. Machine learning is whenever we have some problem, usually we give a very ill-posed way of stating. We state it very ill-posed manner. For example, this is a very ill-posed way. Give an alert to the consumer about the power consumption. It's a very ill-posed problem. But in order to use machine learning, so when I say that give an alert to the consumer about the power consumption, the machine learning program or the machine learning system should have a correct task, what it is required to do. So I make it very clear. Predict what will be the power consumption during next half an hour. Automatically, this is actually to give an alert maybe. So then the task is to predict what will be the power consumption. This is just one example which I am giving. What is experience? Experience is nothing but the smart meter readings, which are actually reading the power consumption and giving to the various power generators. Okay, so the power generators will know. And then what is performance? For example, out of 100 power consumption predictions, so many times you are predicting, see, you will be using this much kilowatt per hour during this time. And during the next prediction, so I am predicting, say, 100 times, and I am checking that how many times this prediction and the original consumption was, what was the difference? Okay, so this is one performance measure. So ill-posed versus well-posed learning problem means ill-posed will never have any clear goal. You're not making it very clear, or it will be having various goals together. Okay, you may not be having a very clear solution. You may not be having a unique solution. So for example, again, I am giving during festive season, electricity supply needs to be optimally distributed in various regions. I'm not making it very clear. As a human being, I may be saying my goal is very clear that during festive season, electricity supply needs to be optimal. But for machine learning purpose, or for a computer system to understand what is this optimal, what do you mean by festive season and all? Okay, so then we have to come up with a well-posed problem. So well-posed problem means if you come up with a well-posed problem in terms of task, the solution is definitely there. It may be almost unique, and it always depends on the data which you are using. So task here is predict what amount of electricity should be supplied in a region on a given day. Okay, so I am making it very specific, and I can apply machine learning algorithm. Now I will take you to the difference between the conventional way of solving a problem and the problem solved by machine learning algorithm. Traditionally, what happens is, suppose you have some data. Let me consider that this is actually data about the region. Okay, so the area, let us consider. So say 2 hectare, 12 hectare, 3 hectare, this is the region. Now, if I say, can you just sort these regions in terms of area so that I will understand how much power should be distributed or transmitted here. So this is very simple. I don't want any hard and fast, or I don't want to adapt to anything. I have a typical algorithm, some sorting algorithm I can take, and I can write a program on that, and I will get an output. See, I have sorted the regions in terms of areas. So this is very simple because I already know these are the areas, and I have sorted it in terms of the areas. And whenever I want to distribute the power, see, this is lower area, it means the area is less, so power is less. But the problem here is not that. The problem is, though the area may be less, the power requirement may be high at times. Now, how do you understand it dynamically? This is another contrived data which I have created. Suppose the temperature is this, humidity is this, the residence which we are talking about is single. That means a single member or just one family, single family. Okay. At that time, we understood that the power consumption was high. Let us consider when the temperature was this, humidity was this, and the residence was a single family, the power consumption was less. Now, when you have this type of thing, what is it that you are giving? What is your data? Your data is actually this. And what is the output required? You are saying, can you predict this output? That means instead of giving a program, you are actually giving the data as well as the required output, which is actually again a data. Okay. And what is the output of machine learning? It is nothing but a program. So I'm not talking about any MATLAB program or Python program, but I'm talking about a mathematical structure. We call it as model. Okay, so if I say here, it is very simple. As I told you, it is a contrived data. So for example, I say that if temperature is greater than 35, then power consumption is high. So tomorrow, if a consumer is there and you are saying, okay, let me say that the temperature today is 37 and the humidity is 98 and they are a single family, then can you tell me what will be the power consumption? Then since I have generated a model, I will say that yes, as per my model is a very simple model though. As per my model, temperature greater than 35. So I will predict that the power consumption will be high. Okay. So a question to you can be, can you come up with another model? Does anyone want to reply for this? Can you come up with some other model for this contrived data? Some good model, better model. I just have 4 data here. Anyone wants to reply?
Ma'am, is it related to humidity?
Yes. So can you give me another model? Yes. You can say, for example, if temperature is greater than 35 and humidity is greater than, say, for example, 90, then power is high. That is also okay, no? Okay. Why am I saying this? Because suppose tomorrow there is a consumer and who is you want to predict, and this is a temperature, and suppose the humidity is 81. Okay, so if only this model is there, you may be just predicting high, but you have more complicated, then you will have more complicated or the accurate predictions perhaps. So as the data, that is what the more crucial thing is, it is data intensive. Machine learning is always about data intensive computing. Okay. The strategy, the learning strategy. Now, since I have been told that electrical people are there, electronics people are there, non-CSE, so I thought of taking a general formula. You all know the power, voltage, current, resistance formula. Okay, various formula. You people are studying that. So you know the general principles. So what happens is, suppose if this circuit is given and you are asked to determine the current, okay, I know the formula. So what I'm going to do, I'll just say that, okay, I will apply it here. It is 18/3 and I'm getting the answer it as 6. That's all. So I am not worried because I know the answer is 6 because I know what is the general formula and I can directly apply it. This type of learning is known as deductive learning. But machine learning is something different. What it is saying, I don't have any general principle or general law. Then what are you doing? You are saying that I just have data. This is the data. You say when A1 was 18 and A2 was 3, this was my T. When A1 was 20, or let us consider if you are talking about circuit, when I gave the, suppose you do not know the relationship between power, voltage, current and all. Suppose, okay, we already know, but I'm just giving this example. So when the voltage was, this battery voltage was 20 and 2, I got this as my current. I got this, I got this as my current. Then what are you trying to predict? You're saying, can you tell me what is the relationship of T with this A1 and A2? From this data, can you tell me what is the relationship? So almost, okay. So some sort of relationship you are coming up with. Then you are understanding it, you are applying your algorithm and you realize that it is nothing but it is A1 by A2. It is not really giving you correct answer and all. That is very clear. Okay, so 18/3, 6. I'm not getting 6 as the answer, 5.9, but approximately I'm almost. So you are reducing the generalization error. If someone comes up with some other model, you are saying A1 into A2, definitely that is not correct, isn't it? So we should have a strategy for saying that it is A1 by A2. Now, who is telling that? Some domain knowledge should definitely be there. Okay, so for machine learning, it is the strategy used is inductive learning. You have some data. Now, what do you mean by data? This data is known as experience. Now, who told you it is 5.9, 10.1 for this A1, A2 data, A10 and 5 you got? Who told you this? Actually, we already had certain circuitries. When we were giving this, we already got these measurements. And from these measurements, we are trying to come up with this type of relationship. Okay, so machine learning is about inductive learning. Okay, having said this, now we come to machine learning tasks. What all are the tasks possible? Okay, so one is regression, the other one is classification. Many tasks are there. I am just giving you few things. Okay, clustering. So for example, generalize your data so that you can predict continuous valued output. It is very necessary, continuous valued output. For example, in the previous case of this power, these are continuous valued output. Okay. The other example can be, what will be the share price of bank after a month? So what are you doing then? You are historically recording the share prices, how it has been performing, and based on that, you're forecasting that what will be after a month. Okay. But what is classification? Classification is prediction only, but the output is discrete value. Now, what do you mean by discrete value? Discrete value is something like this. That is, you are not really predicting the real power in terms of watts, kilowatt hour and all, but you are saying high, less, high, medium, something like that. Okay. So that is discrete valued output. That is task known as classification. Okay. So are the documents given of sports? Suppose you are given many documents and you are asked, are the documents given of sports domain or technology domain? So only two. You may be having millions of documents, but what is the output required? Either sports or technology. So this type of discrete valued output, if that is the task, you call it as classification. The other task can be, you don't have any output specifically. For example, here I'm not specifically giving it. If I'm not giving specifically the power, then what are you trying to understand from this? Okay, so the only thing possible is, one thing possible is you are trying to generalize and form the groups. So for in case of documents, you can say that various documents are available. Can I group the documents given the keywords of the documents? Okay, so this is another task of machine learning. Now, what is experience? Actually, experience is nothing but data. Okay, whenever we talk about data can be say qualitative or quantitative variables. Okay, it may be organized form, it may be unorganized form. So you are aware of various types of data, like when we are talking image data, documents data, videos data, customer transactions, many data is there. But when we talk about data, it is just a raw data. It may be having some form, it may be structured, semi-structured or something. But from that we need to infer some information. That means we need to get some meaningful data. Okay, once we get the meaningful data, what are we going to do with that data? We are saying that we are going to acquire knowledge or analyze the information and learn something. And from that we say, yes, knowledge, or you are trying to understand. This is what. So data may be there, you may be inferring something, or you may be understanding it in terms of just information, what is it about, but learning is more towards analyzing, and then you are saying, yes, this is the knowledge I am acquiring. Okay, so here is one example I was saying, will the blood pressure of patient increase given his exercise routine, diet, blood pressure, chest pain and heartburn condition? Okay, so when you have this type of data, what are you trying to say? You are trying to analyze these data, and you are predicting, well, the BP of the patient will increase. So you may be aware of certain electronic devices which are always fit with the patients, especially old age patients and all, so that even if the doctors are not with him, automatically that data will go to the doctors, and doctor will immediately come up with alerts, and we will call the patient or call the caretaker and inform that, okay, please give this medicine or take care of that person because perhaps his BP may increase. So it's like proactive, we can do it. Okay. So this is another, like if you have some documents related to sports, you said, okay, but you are grouping it. For example, you are identifying that the Indian cricketers are Sachin, Sehwag, Ganguly or something like that. Okay, so these are known as, from the data, you are trying to analyze the information and infer knowledge. What is performance? Now, performance is, as I told you, because of lack of time, I won't be giving all the things, but I'm just giving a bit. So accuracy is one way when you are saying that how many times your predictions were correct. So I had, say, 1,000 patients, and out of 1,000 patients, say 100 or say 200 were non-cancerous patients, and say 800 were cancerous patients. Okay, but when you are really using machine learning system and you are trying to diagnose this 200 patients, how many times you predicted these patients as really non-cancerous? If you are predicting 150 times non-cancerous patients as non-cancerous patients, say cancerous patients, how many times you predicted it as cancerous only? Suppose 600 times you predicted the cancer patients as cancer patients only. Okay, what is accuracy? Accuracy is actually 150. This is correct prediction. This is correct prediction. You can say 750 Okay, 750 divided by 1000. Okay, so this is accuracy. But sometimes what happens is we are not really keen on the entire data accuracy. We are mainly focusing on, for example, I'm focusing on, let us not worry about cancer, but let us not worry about non-cancerous people. I'm just worried about cancerous people. See, false negative is not good. You are saying that 200 times you said a cancerous patient is not suffering from cancer. That is not good, isn't it? Here the critical thing is most of the times this true positive you are worried about making it more correct. Okay, that means you should make it this as 750 or 790 or something like this, and this should be just 50. You are worried more about this. So this type of measure is known as recall measure. Okay, and what is the other measure? Sometimes you are not worried about the just typical one class of data, but you are worried about your overall diagnosis. Okay, so overall diagnosis, you want to check that how many times I'm making it correctly. Okay, so there we go for precision. So these are various performance measures which we can do. So having said this, we are saying that any machine learning algorithm has certain desired characteristics. One, first and foremost is it should be able to learn from the data and generate models of high quality. High quality in the sense the prediction error or the generalization error should be less. It should learn from noisy and vague data. This is also very much important because the data which are now in smart grid also you may understand the various types of data which may be generated. It may be noisy, it may have some disturbances because of the electronic devices or components or many other things. Okay, so when this type of data is given, can machine learning adapt to such data and try to come up with a model? Now, if the data is too huge in the sense in terms of terabytes and petabytes, whether the algorithm which you're using is scalable, is it going to give you efficient model for prediction? Okay, this is something which you need to understand very clearly. Deterministic. I said we are talking about optimization problem. It is not about a sorting problem or very correct solution may not be there. Optimization problem we are talking about. Okay, but deterministic in the sense if the data given is not changing, initial conditions are not changing, the solution obtained is always going to be correct, or a solution going to be obtained is always going to be the same. Okay, but if the data changes, the solution may change. The algorithm is the same. Okay, so deterministic, by deterministic I mean here if the data is same or if the experience is same, what you're trying to learn or your strategy of learning is not changing, then the solution which you're obtaining is always same. Okay, so these are some desired characteristics, and this is the reason we require a well-posed formulation of any problem. Without well-posed formulation, you cannot apply machine learning algorithms. Now let us look into the various types of learning. Okay, so before we look into the types, now you should understand, I told you that the data can be of various, it may be images, it may be documents, okay, it may be some sort of matrices or anything, but then you have to convert that data into a matrix form. This is very much essential to apply machine learning algorithm. So in a plenary form, we may always say, okay, I am processing video, I am applying machine learning on video, right? You may be applying machine learning on video, but that video data should be converted internally. So nowadays, all sorts of packages, tools are available. So you are not really worried about explicitly converting that into a matrix form, but you should always realize this fact that any data you're talking about, maybe videos or images or documents or time series data, because in from smart meters and all, the power consumption data is time series data. Okay, any type of data you're getting it should be converted into some sort of matrix form. And in this, the important thing is these are known as features of the data, and these are known as samples of the data, or rows or tuples. Various names are there. Okay, observations. And there is one extra feature which we call as target feature. Okay, now I just gave you the example of target feature. So target feature is nothing but this is what we are trying to predict it. We may be having some historical data here, and based on this historical
Sandhya,
yes.
your Your screen is not visible. You are visible.
Screen is not visible?
No, slide is not visible.
Oh. How about now?
Maybe a lagging will be there. No, it's not still okay.
Is it lagging?
Yes.
Oh, no. What to do?
Can you present it once more? I mean,
Okay. I'll stop sharing and try to present once again.
No, not too long. Just a few clips. One slide at least you may be lagging.
Okay. So maybe, but how to get the notification? Is it lagging from my side or? Okay, I am talking about types of.
Now,
yes. How about now?
It's not visible.
Is any screen not visible or the current slide is not?
Actually, ma'am, do one thing. Just cancel the presentation and again you just do the presentation.
Okay.
Just cancel.
Okay. How about now?
Yeah, now it's okay, ma'am. Continue, please.
Okay, so from where should I continue? Should I continue from this slide of data representation?
Okay.
let me continue from data representation now.
Okay. So this is another, I'm trying to give you various types of machine learning, and I am saying that any type of data, as I told you, for the machine learning algorithm, it is all about algorithms and it is always trying to come up with a model from the data. So data, whatever data you give, it should be represented in a matrix form. And even if it is video or image or anything, it should be represented in matrix form. Okay. So one important thing to note here is there is one special feature which we call it as target feature. Okay, so every time in our data, this target feature may not be there, but if your aim is to predict this target, it is necessary that your data should have this target feature. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. And there are certain assumptions. So I'm not going into the intricacies of the algorithms, but usually we assume that like F1, F2, F3, these are various features for each observation, then these may be independent. So this assumption need not be correct always, but as I told you, for formulating a machine learning problem and applying a machine learning algorithm, certain assumptions are taken and it works very well in practice. So we assume that F1, F2, F3, F4, F5 are say independent features. Okay, so there are algorithms which do not assume that, but we are not going to deal with that. Okay, so and what are these? These rows are actually the observations. So it can be dependent vectors also, as I told you about the smart meter readings, the power consumption, because whatever you have been last half an hour, you have been using this much power, then the immediate next hour, perhaps you may not reduce the consumption. Maybe in the afternoon, you may reduce the consumption, something like that. Okay. But for the time being, we are assuming it and we need to represent our data in this manner. Okay. Now, target, I already mentioned about discrete and continuous, so I'm not again explaining that, but the main thing to be noted is about the classification and regression. So if it is continuous target value, the task we call it as regression. If it is discrete value, the task to be accomplished by machine learning algorithm is classification. The various approaches for learning. I already mentioned that the strategy used is inductive learning. That means the data should be there and from specific instances of data, you are coming up with some sort of generalization. Now, what are the various approaches? One is supervised approach. Now, what is this supervised? That means there is someone to guide us. Now, what do you mean by guiding us? Now, by guiding, I mean the target feature, which I already mentioned here. This target is actually guiding us to understand how these features are related to this target. So supervised learning means always in your data, there will be some target feature. A question to you, should the target feature, the number of target features be only one? Any idea? Should the target feature be only one? Or can you have more?
We have more target features because for different conditions, it's having different features now.
Yes, yes. But as I told you, whenever you are having a post problem and different conditions are there, what we need to do is when we are formulating it in a well-posed manner, it is always good to have focus on a particular aspect. And in that aspect, you can have one target feature or at the most two, because if you have many target features, then it is very difficult for one particular algorithm to come up with a very good generalization. Okay, so whenever you are representing the data, the focus should be on a particular point. So in the hindsight, definitely you can have more target features and more types of data. But then when you are starting with the domain, and if you do not have sufficient knowledge about the domain, it will be good if you are clearly representing with one or maximum two targets. Okay, target features. So supervised is nothing but you are saying in your data there are target features. So for the time being, I am saying it is one only. Another approach is unsupervised. Now, what do you mean by unsupervised? That means you do not have any target. For example, one person is reading newspaper. Another person is also reading the same newspaper. The third person is also reading the same newspaper. But when I am asking one person what is today's news, he may be mainly focusing on, okay, today in sports, this happened, that happened, and this way it is like this. When I'm asking the other person, he is saying that, okay, in business today, the share market price has gone up and down and that and that. When I'm asking the third person what is today's news, the same newspaper, the same thing, but then when he is exploring the thing, the knowledge which he is imparting is different. So what are we trying to say here? We do not have any specific target here. We didn't say what to do. We only mentioned, okay, read the newspaper. Okay, so in that type of scenario, we are not explicitly mentioning the target. Okay, so this is known as unsupervised approach of learning. The third approach is known as reinforcement learning. Now, what do you mean by reinforcement? Reinforcement data learning, sometimes data may not be available in ample. That means you may be having very less data and you are trying to adapt. For example, you are aware of self-driving cars. Okay, you are just trying to understand how automatically how the car can realize that the traffic signal is say red and I need to stop. Okay, you can definitely feed some rules, but then suddenly some obstacles are coming. How does it come to know that it has to apply sudden brake? Something like that. Okay, so always it is like it has to have an environment together with the data. I would call it as environmental data, and you are learning from mistakes, and you are learning to understand what action should I take given certain scenario. What action should I take given certain scenario? Okay, so in industrial applications, reinforcement learning is comparatively less, but when we talk about smart grid, it is an amalgamation of supervised, unsupervised, and reinforcement learning. Okay, so when you go deeper into any system, developing any system, though at a peripheral phase it may be reinforcement, but when you go deeper, you may get converted into supervised form or unsupervised form. So supervised learning from data, as I told you, there should be a target. So what you're going to do now, you should understand that whenever you have a data, first you should be confident enough that I have really, or my system or my machine learning algorithm is really coming up with a model and I'm satisfied with that. Then only you can deploy the system and ask someone else to test it. Okay. Now, when you have some data, what you will do is first you will split that data into training and test data. Okay, so sometimes we people call it as, especially in computer science engineering, we call it as validation, but I'm not going again deeper into those aspects. So for the time being, let us consider that what you are doing is, in order to understand the data, you are deliberately splitting it into two sets. What is that? Most of the data you will put in training data, and this is the data which you are using to learn. Okay, so machine learning algorithm will apply its strategy or its steps on this particular data. Once it learns, now what is this learning? Learning is nothing but, as I told you, it is learning is it's actually an algorithm which is getting processed on this data. And what is the output of this learning algorithm? Some model. So for example, if this is the target, you may say this target is nothing but is actually say 1.5 into the first feature and say 0.5. I'm just giving an example, say 0.5 into the second feature. This is my model. How did you come up with this model? That is the main part of the machine learning algorithm. Okay. So when you're coming up with this model, you have understood this data, and given this data, this is the model. Now, what are you going to do? You're saying, I have reserved, I knew what is the target, but deliberately I have reserved it because I want to test it. And what I will do, this model, I will apply. Okay, so for each test features, the test features, I apply this 1.5 into F1 plus 0.5 into F2, and then I will predict what is the target. So suppose here I have predicted this, for example, here I have predicted it as 0.6, and I know what is the original. Suppose the original was say 1. So what is the error here? So you are saying the error is 0.4. Okay. So you are applying it, and suppose you are applying it and this is your prediction. So when this is the prediction, you can definitely check with the original test target because you already know it. Deliberately you have kept it hidden. Okay. So, and you can see that how good is this model. If the error is less, you are happy. If the error is more, then you will again go to this data, have some another strategy and come up with some different model. Maybe you can say instead of F1, maybe you are going into F1 square and plus F2. And if one more feature is there, you are saying that you are saying 0.6 into F3. This is the most complicated part, how to come up with this model. And that is where machine learning is helping us. Okay, so various strategies are there for coming up with different models. So this is supervised learning. So the task. Now, what is this regression task saying? So in supervised learning, one of the tasks is regression. So for example, you have one feature. So if I'm saying this is my one feature, so there's a very simple example. I'm saying only one feature is there and I want to predict this target. So that is known as univariate data. That means you only have one feature and based on that, you want to predict the target. So what you will do on the training data, you will just scatter. This is graphical representation because it becomes easy for you to understand. By the way, is the screen visible? I hope I'm clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this feature is that suppose only one feature and I want to find the relationship of one feature, this target. So what I will do is when I'm plotting it, I find very scattered plot and all. Now I cannot say that if it is minus 20, this is the correct answer. And if this is minus 10, this is the correct answer. That is true that you had this data. Now suppose you didn't have any data for say 25. Okay. Now if you didn't have any data for 25, can you tell me what will be your prediction? What you're going to do is you're just taking this. Okay, fine. This is the thing. And when I'm coming here, this is my prediction. And I will say, this is my prediction. Is that correct? Now that is the question. So I am very confident that this is correct because most of my training data in blue color, this is my training data. Most of the time the error was, now you may ask me, why didn't I take this? I could have taken this. But when I take this type of data or this type of line or this type of line to generate my model, this data, which was training data, is not really fitting it. Now, what do you mean by fitting? If you look into the error of this data with this prediction, it is very huge. But if this data, you look into the prediction here, it is actually comparatively less. So most of the time, I need to predict it with less error. That is the reason we are saying that this is my best line fitting. Okay, so this is one example of regression. It has very much complications, but I'm just giving one example. Okay. So how to take this combination of the features is known as actually linear regression. What do you mean by linear? Linear is nothing but when I'm saying what is the target, I'm giving the linear regression in the sense I'm saying that 1.5 into F1. And what is this linearity here? Alpha into F1. When you say alpha 1 into F1, this is linear. But if you say alpha 1 square into F1, this is not linear. Okay, so linear regression means the coefficient or whatever, this is the model actually. This 1.5 or 2.6 or per se alpha parameter which you are trying to come up with using machine learning algorithm, this is making it linear model. Who told you to take it linear? Well, this is well-established algorithm and it works in practice. But if you are doing some research and you have to come up with some other model and other thing, you are very well welcome and depending on the domain knowledge. I repeat, domain knowledge is very much essential to apply machine learning. Okay, because then only you can think of any model building. Okay, so can we have anything more general than this, or whatever you have done, is it every time going to be correct? So again, I'm not going into the real mathematical details of this regression, but it has been proven theoretically that whatever you come up with minimal error, it is going to work globally. Okay, so and another is again same supervised but classification. Now what is this? Here also you were trying to come up with one line, but what did you do with this line? You are trying to fit the data. Here also you are coming up with a line, but what are you going to do with this line? You are segregating the data. You are saying this class is say this is A class and this is B class, which is the best line which will segregate this data. So what is the target here? Discrete value target. Okay, and you are learning the model. You are doing the same thing, but again mathematical structures and every algorithms, though there are similarities, but mathematically there are certain differences. So this is classification. So here also it was a line only, which was regression to fit the data. Here also it is line only, but it is actually segregating the data. Okay, so classification, but target is very much essential. So having said this, supervised, generally what you do is you are saying that you have a training set, and what you do on this, you apply your learning algorithm and you are coming up with a model. What is this model? We call in machine learning terms, we call it as hypothesis. Can anyone tell me why do I call it as hypothesis? Any thought? Why do I call it as hypothesis? The output of learning algorithm is a model. Why do I call it as hypothesis? Any thought on that? What is actually hypothesis? Hypothesis means I'm not sure, isn't it? So the model which I've come up with, okay, it is working very good in training data. When I was looking into, I got really very good answer, and for most of the times I'm getting, say 90% time I'm getting correct answer. But when you're really deploying it and testing based on your model, perhaps in the test data you may be getting only 50% times correct answer. That is the reason I called it as hypothesis. Then what you need to do, maybe you have to apply more domain knowledge data, or you have to take some different combinations of the data and try to understand what can be the model and change the hypothesis. Always machine learning is an iterative process. It is not a one-time job, okay? Because it is solving optimization problem, okay? So can anyone tell me what is optimization here? I hope the screen is visible, because I have become conscious now because of screen problem. Hope screen is visible.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. So when you were training using machine learning algorithm on the training data, you got it very 90% time you got the correct answer. But when you are really testing, maybe on the testing data, you got only 50% time correct answer. Then you will have to again reiterate the thing. Maybe you have to change something in the model and come up with good parameters and all. Again, do the things. Okay. So this is how supervised learning works. What is unsupervised? As I told you, it is always data driven. You do not have any specific target. Okay. So if you do not have any specific target, what can be one task? You are saying that if you do not have any specific target, what I will do is I'll just group the data. Okay. This is just grouping the data. Okay. And so by grouping, what are you trying to do? You are saying I'm just segmenting it because I understood that all these data are somewhat similar. All these data are somewhat similar. All these data are somewhat similar. What are you going to do with this similarity? So when we take applications, I will just explain. But for the time being, you can say, okay, grouping the data is one task because you do not have any explicit target. Okay. Another unsupervised is, suppose plagiarism check, because we teachers, especially students, are here in this. Okay, anyway, but let us consider that you have various documents and you want to understand how one document is related to another, or what are the documents which are having similar things and similar sentences or similarities, so that you can say that, okay, these two documents are plagiarism. Okay, so we can use another task which is known as association mining. Okay, so what is association mining? Association means you are trying to understand what are these various transactions going on, or various things what you want, and these are actually trying to come up with some sort of associations between the features. Okay, so you can call it as items or anything. Now, what you're trying to do here. Now, this is an example of plagiarism check which I've given. Suppose I say that if something is appearing frequently, I call that as plagiarism. So again, I'm not going into the algorithm, but understand here that document, wherever document H was there, or let us consider document T, P, and H. Say T, P, and H. They are very frequent. Now, what do you mean by very frequent? They are appearing, say, at least 30% times, okay, in the entire set of data or entire this thing. What do you mean by 30% time? You are saying this is, see, it is appearing together. It is appearing together. So what is this? You are saying this sentence was there in these three documents. This sentence number 3 was there in these 3 documents. Sentence 5 was there in 3 documents. Sentence 6 was again there in 3 documents. Okay, so that means more than 3 documents, the same sentences were there. That means there is some copying happening. Okay, so this is one example when you are trying to associate one document with the other. Okay, so this, and because you do not have any target here, what you are trying to do? You're just trying to analyze this data and come up with some sort of association. Okay, you do not have any specific target here. So this is association mining. Another is dimensionality reduction. Well, this is really very important, because whenever you have data and you want to, when the number of features are very huge, it is very cluttered. When I'm looking into this data, I don't understand. But the moment I come to reduce this data, suppose I project onto, this is 3-dimensional data. When I project onto 2-dimensional, I get some sort of pattern. Yeah, it becomes more clear for me. So what is dimensionality reduction? I do not have any specific target, but can I understand something? You're saying, okay, do one thing, try to reduce the number of features. When it was 3-dimensional data, I couldn't understand anything. But when it is 2-dimensional, in different dimensions, I could get some sort of pattern. This is known as dimensionality reduction. It has more things, but as I told you, I'm just giving a plenary session, so I'm just keeping it simple. The third type of learning is reinforcement. That means here the environment plays a very critical role. Okay, you have an environment, you have various states, and you have various actions which you need to take. Okay, so you may be saying that I am in state S1, and then what I do, okay, from S1 I can go to various states. Especially in robotics, game playing, and all, this type of learning is used. Okay, so I can go to, from S1 I can go to S2, or I can go go to S3 also. Then if I take action A1, I will go to A2. If I take action, say A5, I will go to say S3. So which is good? From S1, should I go to S2 or should I go to S3? Okay, so this is what is known as reinforcement learning. If I go to A1, in the end, maybe because many states may be there, at the end, which is my best reward or which is my best outcome or what is the best thing I have done? If via this A1, A6 and say A10, when I took this action, I went to different states and finally I could reach a goal. Okay, and when I reached this goal, I could get very good answer or good solution for my thing. But when I was following this another action and reaching different states, I couldn't get the answer or I couldn't get to a state which is really good. Okay, so what is this good and what is optimal? That all things need to be defined by the developer or by the designer. Okay, so this is one example. Reinforcement learning is very much used in smart grid because different states can be, you are saying different power sources are there. So if one power source is diminishing, automatically you should switch to another power source. Okay, and the other example, which is the best source you should switch to because various power sources are there, then which is the best power source you should switch to so that at the end the consumer will never realize that they have got the power failure. Okay, so instead of the power failure, automatically power sources are integrated in such a manner that in each situation you should go to different power sources and at the end you give the consumers the required power. So I'm happy to say that this was my MTech thesis, reinforcement learning, and it is really good to leverage reinforcement learning using this various states and actions. Okay, so the applications, again, there are many, like in reinforcement, like in industries and all during manufacturing, different devices are manufactured and you want to put it in right container. So you can make use of robots for doing that or some machines. So automatically it will detect. Self-driving cars, one of the most prevalent application for reinforcement learning. The power systems, the network routing, okay, all those things are more towards reinforcement learning. But as I told you, as you go deeper and deeper, you would have converted that into some sort of supervised or unsupervised learning. Having said this, now I will go towards the broad applications of machine learning. Why this machine learning has become a hype or it has become a boom like this, the main reason by now you might have understood nothing but the data. Okay, we have lots and lots of varieties of data with huge velocity coming into us, but then we are still starving for knowledge. Okay, we need to properly analyze it. Now from smart meters, this I got from some electrical engineering paper only recently, that it is generating 3,000 terabytes of data. Okay, so from 1 million smart meters, this 3,000 terabytes of data is getting stored. Okay, so this huge amount of data, how do you analyze and understand that yes, these power sources are there, automatically this will be the supply, or can you forecast that this will be the demand so that you can supply accordingly? 500 hours of video is uploaded every minute. 1 million transactions happen in normal grocery stores or in Walmart sort of stores. Okay, so this type of huge amount of data has led to the inevitable requirement of machine learning, and that is the reason. And it is like for decision making, for increasing the productivity in various industry sectors they are using. So it is like everything is spinning around machine learning. So it is inevitable. Now, okay, fine, you have understood it is inevitable. So why it has proven very intelligent? Because of mathematics and algorithms. We human beings have our own limitations. Okay, if I am saying, can you recognize this handwriting? Okay, you are saying, okay, this is person X writing this, and this is person Y writing this. Okay, but how many times will you recognize? And if there is a change, will you be able to? Or how many data or how many times you should watch these many? Do you have patience for looking into or analyzing each and every person's handwriting and understanding it? Okay, similarly, speech processing. So we have our own limitations. We cannot have any hard-coded rules for recognizing this. Okay, so because of this, machine learning has become very inevitable. Okay, the dynamic environment, the self-driving car I was talking about, or autonomous helicopter, which was first developed by the Stanford University. So what happens is, suppose you are manufacturing a car, and this car was manufactured to be driven on, say, New Delhi highway or something like that. But then now, if you are bringing that car in a road where in the vicinity of our area, will it be driving properly, or will it be driven properly, or will it face any problem? Or if tomorrow the car which was designed to drive in a particular road, if something happens to that road or something, automatically will it adjust itself and understand? If it was not a crowded place and suddenly the crowd erupts in, will it be able to understand, okay, this is crowd and automatically I will go to some other route or something like that? So environment is dynamic. So we cannot have any hard-coded things, okay? New knowledge keeps on evolving, and every time we cannot redesign it. And that is the reason we go for self-customizing thing. And what is the main thing here? Data. Data is doing the trick. We cannot do all these things if we do not have data, okay? So without our knowledge, these applications have become so handy that we do not even realize that machine learning is the crux behind this. Okay, for example, disease diagnostics. Doctors are really using such systems. Okay, like in we are really having some projects with Amrita Institute, where we are keeping on getting the data, and we are trying to diagnose the disease and all. Okay, so there are some researchers in our department also who are trying to do that. So what is this? So who are the stakeholders? Doctors are the stakeholders. You are aware of Netflix and Amazon. How is it that when you buy a particular book, automatically Amazon is saying that you can buy this? Or Netflix, you are watching a movie, automatically it says that, yeah, these movies are recommended. And most of the time you will realize that, yes, whatever recommendations are there, that is actually correct for me. It is personalized, right? So similarly in social media, like Facebook and all, when you take a photo, automatically it tags. So here I would like to say, so every time you should not rely on machine learning, because there was an article, I'm sorry, I don't remember the source, but there was an article wherein they said that in image tagging, one person was tagged as an ape. Maybe that person's face was something like that or something. But what I'm saying is it's not that every time it is 100% correct. Okay, machine learning will definitely do some errors, and it can do mistakes. But we are saying that the generalization error we are reducing. Okay, even in advertising, speech processing. So perhaps in speech processing, you know that whenever you switch off my fan, okay, automatically it gets switched off. The Sixth Sense and all, you might have seen the advertisements also. Switch off AC. So the way I say switch off and the way you say switch off, how is it that it is able to understand it? Okay, and for example, I'll give you one very good example. Recently, I saw with Alexa, Amazon Alexa device. What it was saying, it was trying to, when you switch on the TV, you say that get me the channel, one particular channel. So, for example, when Sony Max is there. Okay, so when I say Sony Max, it is not able to recognize that which is the channel number. So what I do is I automatically say my channel number is say 10. Okay, so next time when I say Sony Max, automatically it will go to channel 10, because I didn't explicitly feed, or no designer has come to the Amazon Alexa and again changed the device and all, but it has understood. That is not a self-customizing. Okay, because the machine learning algorithm is doing it. Okay, automatically if something is fed and it understands, okay, fine, Sony Max was channel 10 for this person and he is using this. So next time if he speaks Sony Max, automatically channel 10 should be there. Okay, so that is. And you are aware of Tesla's self-driving car and all. Okay, so these are very various applications. So having said this, maybe I can take a few time in order to go into, so that I told you that every time any problem should be well formulated. So for 1 or 2 applications, I'll just show you what is this well formulated problem. When I say disease diagnostics, computer vision, okay, can you just diagnose whether this person is suffering from diabetic retinopathy and all? But that is ill-posed. For machine learning, when you say, okay, whether this person is suffering from diabetic retinopathy, it needs to have a correct thing for it. Okay, what are you going to give it? Okay, so the task is, you are saying, diagnose if the patient has diabetic retinopathy or not. The task is classification. Be very specific. What is the data? You are saying that you cannot give the entire person's images and all. You are giving specific eye images of different patients. Okay, who may be suffering from diabetic retinopathy or who may not be suffering from diabetic retinopathy. Okay, a question to you. Can you tell me, I told you that data should always have matrix representation. Can you tell me, should it have target feature? Those who have been listening. Because my data will have features and one feature may be a target feature. Now in this task, which I am talking about, do you require target feature?
Yes, ma'am.
What will be my target feature, or how many target features are required?
Actually, you have, I think you have 2 target features. One is, the patient having the diabetic retinopathy is yes or no.
Okay, so instead of saying 2 target feature, you should say that you only have 1 target feature. Okay, and in this 1 target feature, you only have 2 values: diabetic retinopathy, not diabetic retinopathy. Okay, diabetic retinopathy, non-diabetic. So how many features are there? Feature is only 1, but the values are discrete values. How many values are there? Only 2 values. Okay, so this is supervised learning. So when you just said that you just, I want to diagnose this person having diagnosed diabetic retinopathy, you're converting that into a supervised learning task. And what is that task? Classification. You need to understand images. Can anyone tell me what will be the features? Because I'm taking images. Can anyone tell me what can be the features? Because from image, how will I get the features? Any idea? Anyone? What can these features be? Maybe the retinal size, the pixel size, because from images you are taking the resolution, the pixel size, the color of the eyes, and the blood vessel, because the camera which you will be using won't be just normal cameras. Okay, so the typical cameras you are using. So if it is thermal imaging, you will be having the temperature, and based on that you are taking the feature, the intensity. Okay, so what are these features actually? It is actually maybe the intensity, pixel intensity. Okay, the color of the eyes and the blood vessels, which is whether it is projected or not in the image and all. Okay, so those features are there, and the number of features, you won't believe, it may extend up to 3,000, 4,000 features. Okay, so it is not a simple thing. Okay, so and then what is performance? You are saying how many times could I diagnose the patients correctly? Now the question to you is again whether precision is necessary here or recall is necessary. What is my main target? What is critical here? If a patient is suffering from diabetic retinopathy and I am predicting that he doesn't have diabetic retinopathy, that is very critical. Okay, you cannot do that. If a person is not suffering from diabetic retinopathy, you say that he is suffering from diabetic retinopathy, he will be a bit tense. But at least when he goes for test and further test and all, okay, he will be detected that it is not, and he will be at ease. But if a person is actually suffering from diabetic retinopathy, and suppose your system is saying no, and you are very happy about it, and you don't do any further test, then you are at a loss. Okay, so what is the critical thing here? Recall is very much critical. Okay, it is not about non-diabetic people, but it is about more diabetic retinopathy people. They should be accurately classified. Okay, you should make your model more tuned towards that. Okay, so that is the task experience and performance. So every time whenever you have a problem, you need to convert that. Okay, here's another smart farming. So for example, in smart farming also, what types of crops can be grown in this type of soil, and here electronic devices can be deployed, and automatically at what time irrigation should be there. So every time manually, farmers do not have to come and do not have to spend sleepless nights, and if they have to water, they can do it. In our college, actually, one team has developed these animals coming to the fields, and as a result, they have to be always vigilant and have security. So they developed a device. It was electronics department, electrical electronics department. They developed a device. What they did is at night they will recognize some animal coming, and automatically they will set the alarm. So when that sound is heard, automatically the animal will run away. Okay, so instead of manual intervention, less manual intervention, there's detecting animals coming towards a particular area or entering an area. It was able to detect, and the alarm was on. Okay, so this really helped them. So this type of soil monitoring technology or alarming system can reduce the human intervention or can ease. Now you should always remember, it doesn't mean that human beings do not have to do the work. It is only a system which will helping you or easing your work. Okay, but your intervention or your things are very much necessary. Though I say that it is doing on its own. In share trading also, how should I invest? Today should I invest or tomorrow should I invest? That type of things also. In banking also, perhaps you might have heard of the chatbot, the IVA and all, who has been addressing various queries. So thereby, even the bank people who are sitting there, their time is really, they could save their time and spare for good purpose. Okay, more fruitful purpose. Okay, so fraud detection, automatically this type of things are done by machine learning algorithms. So this is one example of, again, share trading, and maybe I will skip that. Okay, let us in Power Grid, Smart Grid. So when you have many customers, if you want to understand, I was talking about one segmentation. Okay, you want to understand that these are the power consumption and how these people are using the power. And when you have this, what you can do is you can segment the powers, and you realize that some people are in this category, some people are in this category, some people are in this category. What do you mean by that? So you are segmenting it. Okay, so you are saying that some people usage is this. Now this is just one pictorial representation that they may be elderly people who are using only just this much of amount, maybe less. There are some family people with full-fledged usage. Okay, there may be only a single student residing. So this usage, consumer, how the consumers are behaving, they are depicting it in a map. Okay, and see how. So what is the advantage? By looking into this, people will, the power generation, they will realize, okay, this area requires this much bandwidth, or maybe this area requires this much bandwidth. So this type of segmentation can help to, in smart grid technology, they can help, it can help to understand that how much power should be generated, or how much, what all power sources can be integrated, and how it should be distributed. Okay. So here again, what is the task here? So the task is segmenting the consumer. So this is a clustering task. What is the data available? As I told you, the data can be